But that's all it takes. It really is all it takes.
Hello. Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast, presented by Hippo Direct. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur or innovator every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Branstetter, digital marketing dude at Hippo Direct, and you can reach me at max@hippodirect.com for help using your podcast as a marketing tool. This is episode number 81, Mamba, and today's guest is Viveka von Rosen. In addition to having the most fun name to say in the world, she is also the world's best LinkedIn expert. She's been endorsed by LinkedIn for her LinkedIn prowess and has also contributed to Social Media Examiner and has been named one of the top 10 most influential women on social media by Forbes. She's also the Chief Visibility Officer and co-founder of Vengreso. She shares what you can do to grow your business through LinkedIn, how to optimize your profile and content, and even some other features in areas that you might not have tried out before. Viva la Viveka. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we're here with the LinkedIn expert, Viveka von Rosen, who is also the Chief Visibility Officer and co-founder of Vengreso. How are you doing today, Viveka?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm awake, so there's that,
That we're really starting off on the right foot here.
I am. And I'm off my crutches, so I'm really starting off the right foot.
Oh my God. Wait, did you actually have a recent foot injury or is that a joke?
No, I really did. I had an operation. That's what happens when you get old. So I had an
No, stop.
operation over the holidays, and I finally got off my crutches like 2 days ago. So not quite
Wow.
dancing a jig yet, but much happier about life.
Congrats. Well, hopefully by the end of this interview, you'll be dancing a jig like you usually do. But first of all, thank you to your doctors for letting you get off crutches 2 days before this interview. It's very nice of them.
Exactly. So we'll be able to do the dancing edition later.
Great. Awesome. All right. We'll get very wild. All right. So we're going to obviously talk a lot about LinkedIn today, which, as you know, to quote the Zoolander film, is so hot right now. But let's get into a little bit into some non-LinkedIn stuff before we get into that. So to start us off here, let's say LinkedIn did not exist. What do you think you'd be doing?
Oh, Lord. Thank God it exists. That's all I have to say. It's kind of funny because 110 years ago when I was in school, I've always...
Oh, come on. You told me it was 102.
Okay. 98.
No. All right. We need to stop. You're very young. We need to stop with these jokes.
All right. Back when I was in school, I loved speaking. I've loved speaking since I was 7 years old. I've never been afraid of the stage, and I was like, yay. And then I decided I was going to be an actress, but then actually this isn't funny. There was a tragedy at the high school I went to, and the acting program was stopped for a couple years, like right when I needed it. So I'm like, okay, then I should probably become a teacher. And then I thought, well, I don't really like kids. I mean, I like kids, but not all day. And so then I thought, I'll be a professor. And so I started going down that track. And my advisor was like, yeah, no, you really, you don't play politics well. You're probably not going to do well within the university system. So is there anything else you want to do? So then I went completely off the deep end, and I started doing all kinds of entrepreneurial stuff. So to answer your question, and you probably already know this about me, I don't give short answers. To answer your question though, I'm not sure what I would be doing, something in the speaking space, but I'm really, really glad LinkedIn came along because it gave me a platform. And, because of timing and opportunity, it gave me a platform that I could step onto, and it probably propelled me faster than something else I might have done. So, yeah, I'm really glad LinkedIn came along.
We're going to hold you to one-word answers for the rest of this interview. No. But what is it you like about the speaking world and speaking so much?
Well, it's a comfortable place for me. I mean, some people are really comfortable with math. Some people are really comfortable with processes and organizations. I'm not so good at those things, but yeah, getting on stage and being able to inspire people, to share knowledge, to help people in their businesses. I mean, that's key. And when you get the reactions and you see the light bulbs go on, I mean, that's one of the things I really love about speaking and training. And then there's all the adoration and the free gifts and the suites and the first class flying, all of no, I'm kidding. It's really
No, it
I'm
sounds like
not
my
quite
typical
there
morning.
yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits about it. If you were, I'm going to give you another terribly difficult scenario here. If you could speak but not about business, what would you be speaking about?
Yeah, I would, the whole idea of inspiring other people is what drives me. So if it's not about business, I would probably be focused on women and women's empowerment and how to really get past internal barriers and succeed and excel. And then the other thing is because of my ancient age, we're going to have to show the picture now because people are going to think I'm like 80.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Okay, I'm
um,
gonna show a picture of a baby.
Okay, that's good. But because I am getting closer to that thing called retirement, and I absolutely don't want to retire, and play golf and eat bonbons. Well, maybe for a week or two. And a lot of my friends are in this situation too, where we're like, okay, so now what? What are we going to do next? And so because there's so much emphasis when it comes to retirement put on financial planning, which is great. You want to have some money when you retire, but not much emphasis is put on the next stages of life. And so many of us are not ready to quit working, but maybe we just want to quit working at what we're doing right now. So what does that look like? And how can we create different platforms, to go back to your first, if you weren't speaking about LinkedIn, what would you be doing? If LinkedIn didn't exist, what would you be doing? So for all these other people who are looking at rounding out their years, what would you do if you weren't doing what you're doing right now? And how could you make money at it? And how could you use your time and your experience and your expertise to really make an impact on the world? So that's what I would probably be talking about.
That's a powerful mission. So yeah, it's interesting hearing what makes you click and what you're passionate about. And I think there's a growing trend of people that just have really taken the bull by the horns, if you will, and really done what they want to with their life and career and kind of made it their
Yeah.
own. And then you see this trend that you alluded to, which is you get to that point of thinking about retiring and you're like, I don't want to retire. Like, I don't want to
Right.
stop working. We previously had on Larry Edelson, who he's a serial medical entrepreneur. He's the chairman of a hospital, and he's done really just incredible career. But it was really great hearing him talk about all the stories from that. But he said, he was one of these people that had so much success early on that he was excited to
Yeah.
retire in like his early to mid 30s.
Right.
And in pretty much the first day he retired, he was just like, you know what? This is terrible. Like this is incredibly boring. And so
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
are,
We think about retirement as people in their 50s and 60s and 70s, but realistically, and because of the internet and because of companies that have just sprung out of nowhere, yeah, we've got all these retirees in their 20s and 30s. And to your point, bored to tears. So what next? What can I create next? But I think as it's still kind of like, what can I create next for me a little bit. But when you get a little bit older, I think the focus is finally off of yourself and maybe even off your immediate family because they're taken care of. So now what can I do in the world?
yeah. That's a great perspective. And so somewhere around the time that you were starring in Jurassic Park, you decided to focus on LinkedIn.
Exactly. Because LinkedIn is the oldest social network. So
It
we
is,
go hand
yeah.
in hand.
Well, let's hit on that first. LinkedIn, I think, was it 2003?
Yep. Yep.
2003 it started. So this is before pretty much all the other social media platforms you see right now. What was your first exposure to LinkedIn?
I was actually, so at the time I was running a business center, a co-share, what we call co-share space now. And what I discovered about myself, I loved the entrepreneurs. I loved the business people. I loved marketing. I loved promoting the company. I was really bad at managing people. Um, and so I focused obviously on what I was good with, the marketing. So I would bring in people to speak to our entrepreneurs and our small business owners. And I brought a woman in to speak about Web 2.0. So that shows you how long ago it was that, we were actually, the idea of interactivity on the web was like a big deal. The fact that,
Whoa.
right, like, wow, it's not just a brochure. You could actually ask questions and get answers. And,
Yeah.
so this is almost before, cell phones and, well, or cell phones that could handle websites.
Right.
But right, so it was like cell phones were still just for making phone calls. Um, it was before the first, I think it was before the first iPhone even. But
Oh, wow.
anyway, the whole idea of Web 2.0 and interactivity, and at the very end of the presentation, she mentioned this thing called LinkedIn. There were 7 million members at the time, which is a huge number, right? 7 million people was a huge number because unless you were part of a major organization, or association, you would have had access to that kind of network. So 7 million people, wow. And there was a virtual aspect to our business, obviously. So I was like, okay, I got to learn everything there is to learn about this LinkedIn thing. And so I did. There was, I think, Jason Alba's book, I'm on LinkedIn Now, what was the only LinkedIn book out there. And so I consumed that, and I used LinkedIn to reach out to Jason, who's very kind and a mentor. And yeah, I just loved this thing called LinkedIn. And very shortly after that, of course, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And so I had an opportunity to dive into this new, this brand new industry that no one really knew about. It was really exciting.
So let's dive into LinkedIn
All
because
right.
there's so many benefits to it, and there's so many ways that you can grow your business and grow your brand, and whether it be your personal brand or your company brand. But I mean, LinkedIn better than pretty much everyone. So what is the most important thing you've learned about LinkedIn?
Yeah, and you'll hear this from hopefully every social marketer out there, to be human. There are people who want to game the system and use automation and spam, and they think for some reason because you're on LinkedIn, you can jump in and be pushy and annoying and salesy, and that just, it doesn't work very well. I guess it's a numbers game, so some of those spam things work until your profile gets shut down. But for me, it's about being human. It's about, you know, looking when people invite you to connect, actually looking at them and making the decision, do we connect or not? Or when you're reaching out to an individual for the first time, taking the time to read through their profile, to look at their, whatever resources or media that they have. So you get a sense of who that individual is. So when you reach out to them for the first time, there's almost a false sense of familiarity, but it's that sense of familiarity that makes people comfortable, I think, comfortable enough at least to reach out in an authentic and meaningful way. And yeah, there's like over 650 million users on LinkedIn now, so I suppose to some point it is a numbers game, but you can still have quality engagements, quality interactions. And when it comes to teaching and training on LinkedIn, a lot of our salespeople are and marketing folks are like kind of pushing back a little bit, like, oh, I don't want to learn something new. But it's really taking the skill set that made them successful in the first place, which is the ability to relate to others, the ability to be empathetic to others, the ability to listen, and you're just doing it on a platform that opens you up to a wider audience. So no matter what features I'm a big fan of video and updates, and eventually one day I might get LinkedIn Live. No matter the
One day, fingers crossed.
one day, It's fine, LinkedIn. I'm not taking it personally. Yes, I
Yeah,
am.
you're not endorsing their brand or anything. I mean,
Yeah. I've only written 3 books and I've got, 2 courses on LinkedIn Learning, but whatever,
geez,
LinkedIn.
step it up, will you?
Yeah, really. But truly, whatever, there LinkedIn will continue to deliver us cool features that we can use publicly and privately, and paid and free. But really, what it comes down to is how do we use those different features to truly have human connections with our audience.
So what can we do to be more human? Because obviously it's natural to be human when you're like in the offline world and talking to people, just having a
Right.
conversation. But when you're online and you're connecting with people that you may or may not know, but could be halfway around the world from them.
Right.
How do you be human as opposed to just coming off as like spammy or a bot or all these words that have such a negative connotation?
Right, exactly. Well, the first thing is make your profile human. So many of us, when we got on LinkedIn, they had a little tool that would allow you to upload your resume, and so that's where people stopped. 2007. I haven't progressed since then. And so one of the things that you want to do is update your profile, but you want it to be buyer centric. You want it to be focused on, your prospects and on your buyers and on who they are and what their points of pain are. You want it to be a resource. You want it to be full of media that is helpful to them and not just a blatant sales pitch. You want to share content that gives people a sense of who you are, whether it's video, testimonials, recommendations, endorsements. So that's where you want to start, is having a more human and buyer focused profile than just a resume where you're a quota crushing sales guy. So that's
Well, I guess I need to change that for my profile. So,
yeah, you might want to work on that. I got a funny story about that if we have time later, but
of course.
so that's step number one. And then step number two is just like you would in real life. If you walked into a networking event, you're not going to hopefully walk in with your arm extended and a business card in your hand going, "Hey, buy my stuff." You're going to kind of walk in, see who you know. If you don't know anyone, you'll kind of like probably lurk around a little bit and listen to some conversations. And then when you hear a conversation that you can slide into, you do. And then after having a conversation for a short time, you go, "Oh, and hey, by the way, my name is Viveka. I work at Vengreso. Sounds like you have questions about social selling. I'd be more than happy to answer." And so that's kind of what you do on LinkedIn. You find your prospects. It's easier with Sales Navigator, their premium account, but you can do it on the free account certainly as well. You find your prospects, you kind of listen in, by which I mean you view their profile and you view their activity. If they are active on LinkedIn, if they are sharing posts or articles or videos, it's your opportunity to start engaging in the conversation. You start commenting, liking, sharing, and after that, then you reach out to them. But they already have a sense of who you are because in their notifications, they've seen your face, they've seen your title, they've seen you, hopefully positively or in at least in an interesting way, respond and comment to their content. So they're a lot more likely to accept the invitation. And then before you throw them the sales pitch, because you know who your buyer is and because you hopefully have some resources for them for free to kind of build that positive sentiment and build that KLT, that know, like, and trust factor, you'll share that, have another conversation maybe publicly, on a post. And then, when you're ready or when you feel they're ready, you can slide in with that. And hey, if you ever want to take this to a phone call, here's my calendar link, here's my Zoom link. And then that way they feel like they know you, they've got a positive attitude towards you, and they're a lot more likely to, accept that invitation to actually meet face to face. Of course, if you're going to meet someone, if you're going to a conference, I've got a lot of people reaching out to me because I'm going to speaking at social media marketing world again. And so a lot of people are reaching out going, "Hey, can we meet?" Like, sure. That gives us something in common. We'll be there face to face. Yeah, absolutely. Let's meet. Or introductions. It's another lost art on LinkedIn. They got rid of the introduction tool, which is good because it was really confusing and hard to use. But you just go old school, right? See who who knows somebody that you want to know, and ask them for an introduction. We have something called a two-step, referral or two-step introduction method. But regardless, just, ask for the introduction, because what is it, 87% of all deals start with an introduction or research or recommendations. So you do want to bring that human aspect into your engagement on LinkedIn.
I'll quote you on that 87%. I was
Yeah,
hoping to
I
get
can't
a
remember
decimal
where.
point in there as well, but
Exactly.
it's okay.
87.3.
Thank you. Now
It's
it's
always
official.
0.3, right?
I think so. Yeah. Round up or down. So there's a lot there. And I think you gave some really powerful analogies there. What I think is so cool about your approach to LinkedIn is it's really content marketing at its finest. It's
Yeah.
providing value in content way, way, way up front before you would even think about pitching or having a CTA on something.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a fantastic approach there. There's a lot of different parts. I do want to start with the profile.
Yeah.
So when you look at your LinkedIn profile, from top to bottom, you kind of see at the top is your profile picture. There's the quick, there's whatever your title you have and maybe a school or a recent job. There's the about section. Then there's the more kind of your experiences, which used to be more of your resume, but now I think it's changed a little bit. And then there's some
Yeah.
more stuff towards the bottom. But of those elements, where would you kind of rank them in terms of importance? Like where should you start as far
Yeah.
as
So
refining everything?
exactly. So obviously start above the fold, because that's just where the eyeballs go. Heat maps show people go to your picture, your name, your background image, your headline, and then down from there. So, but they're going to start, with your picture. So like yours, right? A smiling close up that actually looks like you. I
Thank
cannot
you. I was a
tell
little
you.
concerned about that, but
Right? But how many times have you gone to an event and maybe you've been following someone on social, and then you meet them for the first time and you're like, are you your own grandmother? Because that picture on LinkedIn don't look like you.
Whoops.
So
A little
it,
Photoshop, perhaps.
a little, yeah, a little, or it's just a really old picture, and people feel like, well, I had more hair then, or I was thinner then, or I wasn't wearing glasses then. But the fact is, that disconnect when people meet you for the first time from your picture, what they're expecting and what you really are, that could destroy any positive sentiment that you've built. So, a good picture is actually really, really important. And you've done a good job of actually contrasting your background, the green and the red. So
Oh,
if you
why,
can,
thank you.
well, you're welcome. Something that makes you stand out, a little 3D-ish. I mean, it's so cool with our cameras now with portrait mode. We can be artistic, and yet still it needs to be a representative of what we look like today. So that's one thing. The background image gives people a sense of who you are. So you've got I'm assuming the New York skyline.
Yes.
You
Yes.
can
It was yeah, it was either that or the Cleveland skyline, and they're
right.
pretty head to head, I think.
Well, being that you're in New York,
Right. Yeah. Well, from Cleveland originally, but yes.
Oh, but from Cleveland. Okay. So yeah, so it's that background image gives people a sense of who you are. It's also a great branding opportunity for your company. So when we work with clients and sales teams, we'll create 3 or 4, or well, their marketing team will create 3 or 4 background images that they can then choose from and upload. So it creates a nice, strong brand for the company, whether you're a solopreneur or a large enterprise size company with 600 salespeople. So that kind of branding stands out, and it makes your profile stand out. And then the headline is also so important, because I could have CVO of Vengreso. Now, first of all, no one knows what a CVO is, right? Is it chief vitality officer? Do I run yoga? And is Vengreso the newest kombucha drink? So if I just had CVO of Vengreso, most people think it's soup. No
Mm.
one would know what that is. And so you really want to take the opportunity in your professional headline to tell people, who you serve and how you serve them and who you are. So you're telling people what you do, right? Wild Business Growth podcast host and podcast producer. And then you're the digital marketing manager at Hippo Direct. And the cool thing is, if you got an iPhone, I heard this doesn't work on Android. I don't know if it's true or not, because I don't have one. But if you've got if you've got an iPhone, you can actually expand that 120 characters out to about 260 characters. So you really
Really?
can dive into who you help. And then that way, when the people you help, your ideal prospects, are kind of browsing through all the profiles, they recognize themselves in your headline. They're like, yes, I am a, female founder of a startup who, doesn't have enough time and is lacking balance in life. If if that was, say, me. So if there was a consultant or a coach out there who helped women like me, I would stop at that profile. And then I'd start moving down into the about section, which would expand upon that statement. So I would
Mm.
expand upon how I help, if I was that coach or consultant or executive coach, how I help women founders and startups. Now, there's 650 million people on LinkedIn, and there's probably only, 1,000 coaches who do that, and they might have, I don't know, 10,000 potential clients out of 650 million. But those 10,000 are going to stop at that page, right? And so you really do have an opportunity to attract your ideal prospect if you're speaking to their points of pain. And, we have people who go, well, I can help anyone with a computer. I can help anyone with a company. I can help anyone with a face. Guess what? That's not going to help anyone. The more niche you can get and the more you can showcase that niche, or if you're French Canadian, niche, in your about section, in your headline, that's where the transformation really starts to happen. That's where you begin to attract your ideal prospects.
I realize now that sometimes I'm French Canadian, sometimes I'm not, based on how I pronounce that. I never know the way to pronounce that. But you talked a little bit about the about section, which sounds funny, but it's true. And I think you're going to yell at me because currently at the time of recording, I don't have anything in the about section.
No,
And
you don't.
it's actually something I've been thinking about a lot. And for background here, back when I was in college and around the first time, actually, it might've been late high school, around when I got LinkedIn at the start, I had heard from a couple different people that the about section was optional and you really don't need anything there. And so it's kind of just always been that way for me. And I've changed jobs over time. And so I
Yeah.
just didn't really know what my niche was. And, but the more I'm thinking about it, and now it's, as I get more into the podcasting world and help other small business owners from a podcast production side,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a real opportunity to go in and expand on that. So
Yes.
from your perspective, what should you have in the about section?
Yeah. So really, you're expanding on your headline if your headline is done correctly, but you're focusing on your buyer, your prospect, and what their points of pain are and how you can help them. Like literally, that's what you're doing. And so the about section is 2,000. Okay, ninja trick. It's actually 2,600 characters, but
Ooh,
they don't say that. And, everything says 2,000.
really?
But they
Oh,
just
false
expand it.
advertising. Come on.
Yes. So you have think of it as a sales page without being a gross, salesy, annoying salesperson. But think of it as a sales page. The first line has to draw them in because only the first line or two show. And so you got to get them to click on the see more, right? So that they can see the whole quote sales page. But truly, after you draw them in, and you can address them in the first line, you can ask a question, you can share a quote, 90% of businesses who have podcasts meet their quota and excel compared to the 10% who don't, or something like that. I have no idea what that quote is. I totally made that up.
I think you're right.
Right. So now I'm going, I got a business, but I don't have a podcast. And yeah, we've been struggling with sales and marketing. So, oh my gosh, I need to click on see more and read how this guy Max can help me. And so
Bam.
then you can, expand upon that. You can talk about businesses that you've helped and what their numbers look like with their permission, of course. You can share some elements of what your company does, but that, the here's my company and here's what we do is really more reserved for the experience section. This is, hey, I totally get you. I know you. I understand you. I realize you've got these problems. We can absolutely help them. Here are some of the results that we've received. Check out some media that we have or some resources that I've attached below. And please feel free to, give me a phone call, click on my contact info section and book some time with me, blah, blah, blah. So put that call to action in there. But yeah, I would almost make that summary section, like a sales, a gentle sales page where you're focused on your buyer and their points of pain.
And human, and the elements
Human.
of
Yeah.
human are coming
Yes.
out from there. Cool.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well,
Always first person. Yeah. Unless you're like a lawyer in a Fortune 50, then maybe you go with the third person. But,
gotcha.
for folks like us in marketing and in sales, you always want to go first person.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I was either debating doing it first person or going to law school. So I
Yeah.
guess one of those two.
It's so much easier just to rewrite it in first person.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Apples to apples there. So that's very helpful. And I'm inspired now. So maybe by the time you're listening to this, I will have a complete about section that actually has something there. So that's baby steps here.
Exactly.
So that's a lot on the profile side, which is
Yeah.
obviously crucial. Outside of the profile on LinkedIn. So once you have your profile optimized and follow your advice and have everything set up in your new, modeling shoot and all that, not literally, but once you have your profile optimized, what is the best way to grow your business through LinkedIn once you have that set up?
Yeah, it's really twofold, right? So the one thing is you're going to want to share content. If you're already a content creator, if you're already blogging, if you're already creating YouTube videos, if you already have a podcast, you can pull that media in and share it, because that does a couple things. It makes your profile more visible. It gives people a platform to engage with you publicly. And it just makes your profile look better, and starts to position you as an expert in your particular arena. I mean, when I started on LinkedIn, there were no LinkedIn experts with the exception of possibly Reid Hoffman, the founder, and
Right.
Jason Alba, right? And so I went ahead and I claimed LinkedIn expert, and I started talking and teaching on LinkedIn. And at the time, they had a cool little plugin that you could pull in your WordPress blog right into your LinkedIn timeline. And so that's actually how Wiley found me to write the first book. Is they looked at my LinkedIn blog and they were like, "Oh, you write about LinkedIn and you don't suck. Okay, we're
That's
looking
all it
for a
takes.
writer who can write about LinkedIn and not suck." So
that fits the job title. Yeah.
that's the job. Yeah, I write about LinkedIn and I don't suck. That's going to be my new headline. But so if you can showcase that expertise, it doesn't have to be your own, your own writing. It can be your companies and you're curating that content. But sharing that content gives people a platform to engage with you. So that's number one. Number two, as I mentioned earlier, you want to start using LinkedIn search. Use all the search fields. So there's the search up top, but if you just click on people, there'll be another link that says all filters, and then you can refine your search by how they're connected to you, where they live, where they work, what kind of titles they have, where they went to school, et cetera, et cetera. And so the more specific you can get in your search, the tighter the results and the better the results. And then I would go first with seeing who you had in common, who you could ask for that, introduction. So if I wanted to be introduced to you, Max, I would, I'm just seeing right here, I don't even have to click on the 18 mutuals. I see Ann Handley and Mark Schaefer. I know them both. You know
Yeah.
them both. And I could just reach out to Ann and say, "Hey, Ann, I noticed that you're connected with Max. I see he has a podcast. Would love to be on his podcast. Would you be willing to connect me?" And, hopefully she would say yes. And if she didn't, then I go, "Hey, Mark, I see you know Max. I'd love to be on his podcast. Do you know
you,
me?"
you have 18 attempts there.
Right,
18,
right,
18
exactly.
strikes until you're out. And that's exactly what happened.
Exactly.
You reached out to all 18 of our mutual contacts, and the rest is history.
Right. I mean, someone's going to say yes. And so, but it works hand in hand, right? The more you can
Yeah.
grow your network, the more mutual connections you have, the more likely you are to get that introduction. But we have a client, this is all he does, and he has 100% success rate of booking meetings with people he's reaching out to on LinkedIn, because every single person he reaches out to, it's through an introduction. And it might not be through the first introduction. Sometimes he has to go through 5, 6, 7 people before he gets that introduction. But eventually he gets it and he books the meeting, and he's a great sales guy. So he closes the deal. Like his success rate is unprecedented as far
Wow.
as being able to connect and engage. But that's all it takes. It really is all it takes. But people don't use, don't even think about using that feature. They're just like, well, it's too time consuming. I'd rather just spam 500 people using some automated tool with some message. I got this one the other day. I see that you're in the cleaning supplies business. Would you like more leads like this? No and no. I'm not in the cleaning supply business.
Hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, ergo, this message really sucked. And no, I don't want to spam my network like this. I mean, I'm not kidding. That was literally an automated message that I received. Also, LinkedIn hates automation and they'll shut your profile down if they find out you're doing it. So,
Also important.
right, use those human relationships.
It's all back to human.
Yeah.
So those are two really great areas to focus on there. I have a question on each of them. The first one, so in terms of sharing your content there, and I know when I'm looking at things from a content standpoint, I mean, I of course share out a lot about the podcast and things going on in the industry and other stuff we're up to at Hippo Direct, but I never know like how long or how often to post. Like, what would you say are, at least at the time of this recording, best practices as far as how often you should post to LinkedIn and the length of those posts?
Yeah. And you're going to mix it up a little bit. But the every day, it's not, as you know, it's not an email. Not everyone in your network is going to see
Dear LinkedIn connections.
Right? Exactly. Dear, exactly. I mean, definitely
My
don't
fellow
do that.
LinkedIners.
Yeah. I'm going to spam you every day with this. I mean, it's spaghetti on the wall. It's similar to Twitter. It's similar to Facebook, although it's, I think, more honest than Twitter or Facebook because you really don't have to pay to get seen. LinkedIn's algorithm recently shifted for the better, I think, not necessarily for me personally, but for people on LinkedIn, because they're now more likely to promote your post beyond your network if you get engagement, and it's a percentage of engagement. I'm making this up. It's 10%. I don't know what it is, but if with 30,000, 40,000 followers, if I share something and it gets 1,000 views but only 5 likes, LinkedIn's going to be like, never mind. But if someone who's got 300 connections shares their content and it gets 30 views and 13 likes, LinkedIn's going to go, oh, cool. This person's network is engaged. Therefore, this content must be good. Therefore, we're going to promote it and make it more visual. So the first thing is it really is quality, not quantity. And that's a recent shift on LinkedIn. When it comes to sharing content, there's articles, long form posts that are like blog posts. They're not doing quite as well as they used to. There's video and live, if you can get it, which is really great if you can get it. But native video is still working really well.
I'm sensing a little frustration there.
Just a little animosity there. LinkedIn's newest, it's so silly, but LinkedIn's newest toy, for want of a better word, is their documents, the ability to upload either a PDF or a PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah.
Or image, right? And not a link to an image, but upload the actual image. Because that's new-ish, yearish or so old to LinkedIn, they're promoting that. They're giving more visibility to that. So if you do have a PDF, a PowerPoint presentation, don't use a SlideShare link, which is, of course, a LinkedIn company SlideShare, but actually upload the PowerPoint, the PDF, the image, number one. So that's going to get it more visibility, or upload the native video. And then kind of switch back and forth between short form posts. So more like a tweet, like, hey, you should totally check out this new podcast competition that Max has out. Right. And I'd tag you in
now you're warming my heart. Come on now.
Yeah. Also, I'm looking at your feed. So
the truth comes out.
Truth comes out. But truly, just a short thing like that. Or a long form post is using all of the 1,200 characters. That's 1,300 without media, but 12 to 1,300 characters to more fully describe what that asset is, especially if it's video. Because a lot of people, yes, video is like the most watched, blah, 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 the most engaged upon thing on social, blah, blah, blah. But some people don't have 3 minutes or 2 minutes or 60 seconds. And so if they're going to invest that time in watching your video, they want to know what it's about. So you want to spend that
Yeah.
12 or 1,300 characters kind of explaining what the video is. And then like, oh, okay, I'll listen to it. Our attention spans are short, right? Shorter than a goldfish. We all heard that already. So
Yeah.
it's
Heard that from a goldfish, actually.
yeah, I did too. But then I stopped paying attention, so I can't remember which goldfish.
Ay.
And then using things like like emojis, depending on your audience, but like emojis, tagging relevant people. If I was going to talk about your podcast competition, obviously I tag you in that. And using hashtags are a thing again on LinkedIn. And even with that long form post, it took me way longer to describe it than it takes to write it. But I would switch
Right.
between those two things.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good stuff. And I think it definitely a healthy mix keeps it interesting. And I just know from the people that I'm connected with and follow on LinkedIn that it makes such a big difference when they're mixing it up as opposed to doing like the same exact length every time.
Yeah.
So that's
Exactly.
helpful there. And then how about on the search side? So LinkedIn search, it's something that everybody knows about, but I know personally, like I haven't spent a ton of time with it, although I do know on the advanced, like it is pretty cool how advanced you can get as far as, schools people went to or their titles or what companies they're at. It's pretty incredible. And you mentioned mentioned earlier how to use it from an introduction standpoint, but what else can we expect? Like what can we get out of search? What kind of like what kind of is like the golden goal that sounds great. The golden goal of using LinkedIn search. Like what's kind of the prize there?
Yeah. So one thing that I'm sure anyone who has a free account has experienced is, halfway through the month, LinkedIn goes, yeah, you're not allowed to do any more searches unless you want to pay us. So the one piece of gold is actually being able to focus your search so much that the results are much smaller, but much more quality than just, searching on a title in the great big search field. And by the way, you can search on locations, companies, content. So there's a lot of different stuff that you can search on, but I'm talking mainly about the people search. And so number one, you can continue to do it all month long. Number two, and this one is so cool, and I don't think people realize the power of it. If you go into the all people or the people search and then you click on all filters, right smack dab in the middle, it says connections of. And so not only can I see all of the connections of, say, you. So if I were to, well, we're not first level. You have to be first level connections. So,
well, there's a little foreshadowing there.
Yeah, exactly. So send me a connection request, darn it. But let's just, we picked on Anne earlier. So Anne Handley, right, who's super, so she's a center of influence for sure in the social media world. So now not only can I see who her connections are, I can sort them. Well, I really want to travel to Sweden. So who does she know in Sweden? And I really want to speak to people who are CEOs, CMOs, CTOs, and CFOs in Sweden. So then I can go down to the titles and do what's called Boolean search and or not. So I can do CFO or, always capitalize the OR, CFO or CTO or CIO or whatever, or chief or, and then
CVO, I think.
Yeah, or CEO. Right, exactly. So let's just do that and let's see who Anne knows who's a CEO in Sweden. But that will get you, and then I know that I can also ask Anne for an introduction to that person. Right? So that is a really, really, really powerful. She knows Thor Johnson. So I can actually ask Anne to introduce.
His name is Thor? That's incredible.
Thor. I know, right? Thor. He's Thor Johnson.
You can even find Thor on LinkedIn.
You can even find Thor, exactly, who happens to live in Malmo, where my family is from. So, right, and he's COI at In River. Boom. If I wanted to write off my trip to Sweden next summer, I reach out to Anne, who introduces me to Tor, who I, say hello to. And now I've got a couple things in common. Oh, and then he also knows Jill. And now I go meet him for lunch and I write off my whole trip. So there you go. I just made you money on LinkedIn.
Wow. This is a productive call for you.
A very productive call for me. Don't know about the rest of you, but truly that connections of tool is super, super effective.
Wow, that's it. Like I was aware of search, and I always thought it was kind of cool how there were so many different filters. But you just blew my mind, kind of how deep you could go. And now we're getting into like comic book
Poor
universes and
Anne
stuff.
is going to have like everybody. What
Yeah,
superheroes do Anne know?
she's going to be known for her connections now.
Exactly. There's Loki.
Imagine you started your own podcast. You're growing your brand, sharing your expertise, maybe even your terrible puns, and meeting fascinating people. That is awesome. Now, imagine all the hours you've lost every week due to the podcast's demands. Not so awesome. I am your podcast producer. Email me at max@hippodirect.com. Let's get to a segment on inspiration and creativity. So, get into the mind of Viveka. So, first, yeah, I know.
That's
Disclaimer.
Super scary, man.
Yeah. Okay. I'm. Get your popcorn ready. But let's start off with creativity here. How do you stay creative?
That's an excellent question. No,
Thank you.
it's that whole it's that work-life balance that we mentioned before. I'm a writer. I love to write. I love to read, and so I can't just do business writing. And so, yeah, I write, short stories. I journal. I've got a couple, fiction books for when I retire or if work ever slows down that I'll start working on. So that's definitely one thing that I love to do. I go to those wine and painting classes with my daughter-in-law.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So fun. I mean, I suck, but it doesn't matter.
But it's all right. You're drinking wine. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's wine. So
you're going to leave drunk and with a painting. That's a pretty good combo.
Exactly. And an Uber home. And then right now I can't venture outside because we just got a big blizzard, but I live in beautiful Colorado. And so I'm also very inspired by nature. And my view from my office is just like insane when I look beyond my monitor. So that I think is really important. It's a little harder in New York City. You got to go to Central Park, but to be touched by nature. What's the newest thing they're calling it? Is it forest baths? Forest baths.
Forest baths.
Forest baths. You go walk in the forest. It's just a hike, but you know how things are. It's now called a forest bath. Or something like that. Or
I was definitely thinking there was going to be a bath involved.
Yeah, no. It's just like, well, I don't know if you take your clothes off. Maybe take your clothes off, but you go
probably
into
depends where you're
absorb the forest. But and hug a tree. But that I'm joking. But those things are also, we've got to be fed by things outside of work. So nature, my own creative inclinations or not, as in the case of painting, those things kind of round me out. And I can tell when I haven't done them because my world gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And smaller.
It is, and on and on and on.
And on and on.
It is. No, yeah, it makes such a big difference. I can tell you personally that I'm not close. I'm not very well. I guess in the grand scheme, I'm not, my apartment isn't too close to Central Park, but there is a much smaller park right across the street. And I almost daily will take just like a 5 or 10 minute walk just around the park because it's like the perfect size for a quick walk. And it just feels so good for your mind. Like it's just such a good refresh. And especially for me and for anybody who works from home, like you got to get out of your place every now and then. It makes such a big difference. So I get you on the nature standpoint. You mentioned fiction. I'm curious, what type of fiction? Like, you don't have to reveal the full plot or anything, but like, what subgenre within fiction is the books that you're writing and thinking of?
Yeah, so I actually wrote 2 unpublished, although maybe I could just like self-publish them, science fiction novels.
Yeah.
I'm a huge science fiction fan. So I wrote 2 science fiction novels, although that's not what's bubbling up right now. I'll probably write another one. The 2 people who read it are like, oh my God, because it's a trilogy and I stopped at the second book. So for my 2 readers. Exactly. For my two readers, I might finish the trilogy. I've actually got a historical fiction that's loosely based on my great 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 grandmother, who was just this like kick-ass awesome woman in Philadelphia back in the 1860s, 70s, 80s, 90s. She had, well, okay, we don't know. I think she had an affair with a guy named Keeley, who was kind of like a modern day Elon Musk, except for he was a scam. He created he said he created a perpetual motion motor and machine. So he had Keeley Motorsports, and she funded him like to the nature of what today would be tens of thousands of dollars a month. She kept
Oh
him.
my God.
Now, there's no proof that they were actually lovers, but of course, in my book, they will be. And
Ooh.
she's unknown. She's relatively unknown, but she was friends with some of the world's most famous authors and poets, and it's just she's just this incredible woman. So in the vein of Out of Africa, who is also about my great great aunt, in the vein of Out of Africa or Circling the Sun or any other historical fiction out there, I'm gonna write that book, and my husband's writing it with me. He's the research dude, so he's gonna get all the facts and figures, and then I'm gonna exploit them.
Awesome. Well, it sounds fascinating. So that's pretty. You must have had lots of fascinating stories about your grandma growing up. So appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing them. How about on the resources or taking in information side? You mentioned your husband being the research dude. What do you do personally to research? Like, other than spending so much time and energy on LinkedIn yourself, how else do you learn from a business standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, wherever I can absorb the information, obviously podcasts. I mean, as a nod to you and,
Yeah,
and
yep.
all your brethren, right? Eh, pro, po-
That's
pod,
one way to portray the industry.
but truly, I mean, it is when I'm cleaning, when I'm going on hikes, I listen to podcasts. Otherwise, I'd be watching Netflix all the time. So it's
Yeah.
just a great way to absorb information. I watch a couple people's lives on LinkedIn. Rob and Dr. I have great LinkedIn lives. Rob Balabassis,
Oh,
who
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right
I
used to
I
be
never knew
with,
how to pronounce it either, but
I
I know
know,
who you're
me
talking
either.
about.
Sorry, Rob. He used to be Thinkific. Now he's with TubeBuddy, but he and Dr. I probably do like the best lives out there. They're very consistent and they're prepared, like you have been today. So
Oh, thank
I
you.
love watching that. Of course, conferences. I love going to conferences mostly so I can speak, but I do love meeting people and learning from other people in conferences. So there's so much, and books. I mean, so many of my friends are authors, so I have a whole bunch of books here sitting on my bookshelf, including Everyone Writes by Anne Handley.
Oh,
um
yeah. Everybody
it's
writes.
a
Yeah.
fan show, right? But yeah, I mean, it's I have so much information, and as we all have so much information, it's just really a matter of what do I want to learn today. And audiobooks, I also love audiobooks.
Oh, of course. Yeah, which kind of is like the blend between podcasts and
It
and
true,
hardcover books anyway.
exactly.
So, I'm gonna limit you to one answer for each of these, but
Oh, geez.
other so other than this podcast, of course, what is your favorite podcast? And then what is your favorite book you've ever read? Just first thing that comes to mind for each of
Well, of course, it's our two podcasts that we have at Vengreso.
those.
um,
Yep.
I don't have. I wish I could say I had a favorite. I really, it's kind of whatever pops up, and sometimes I don't even know who it is.
Really?
So yeah,
Pops
I
up
mean,
like when you see it on LinkedIn, or like what do you mean?
no, no, no. When on my pod feed on Outcast. So I've got like a bunch of
Mm.
podcasts that I follow. So kind of whatever's next.
You mean
So
Overcast?
Overcast. That's not Outcast. That's the band.
That's
Overcast.
a
Thank you.
yeah. Hey, yeah.
Hey,
We're going to the players ball here.
so yes, our own Vengreso's podcast, which I have to listen to for business, but
Yeah.
truly, I mean, some the NPR podcasts, some the iHeartRadio podcast. I mean, just they're from business to fun to creative. I mean, really, I wish I had a favorite one. My favorite book was A Wrinkle in Time, but then they made a movie out of it, and so now I'm like,
Oh,
they did a good movie.
yeah.
They did a good job with the movie, but I felt like just, I had such a love for that book when I was a child. Mind, oh crap. I'm so bad with names and titles. I should have been prepared for this.
No, well, I'm sure Outcast is very appreciative. It's okay.
Yeah. There's
They needed some extra PR here.
yeah, exactly. Because they're, yeah. But I don't have a favorite business book because it's whatever I'm reading at any given time. There's oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. There's one, Mind something. It's so good. Oh, here. It's called Mind Hacking Happiness, duh. By
Mind
Sean
hacking
Webb.
happiness, duh.
Duh, yeah. Don't forget the duh part. I literally, though, folks, I had to like open up Audible because I had to go look at my current library. But yeah, the two Mind Hacking Happiness books, I'm somewhat obsessed with, because they help with business, but they also help with, life and balance and all that kind of good stuff. And there's some really good techniques in there to keep the chattering monkeys at bay and things like that.
Always important. And you said, I think I spoke over it, but Sean Webb, you said?
Yeah, Sean Webb, SEAN, Sean Webb.
Right.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Mind Hacking Happiness. Really, yeah, it's really good. Really good. I actually bought the physical version of it and the 2 Audible books.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
Very,
When you
very
buy
impressive.
the physical version, like that is a commitment. You can't just delete that.
That is commitment. You could throw it out the window, but.
Well, that's true.
So let's get to a fan favorite segment called the Wild Business Shoutout of the Week.
The Wild Business Shoutout of the Week.
Wild business shout out of the week. So we talk about a recent ad or campaign that caught our attention. And speaking of ad or campaign that caught our attention,
Right.
At the time of this recording, Super Bowl 54, I think it was, or was it 44? 54, whatever. It doesn't matter. Super Bowl 2020.
Won.
Yeah. Spoiler alert if you're living in the past. Super Bowl 2020 happened. And of course, there's always so much talk about the Super Bowl ads. And it's such a big commitment and financial commitment to put out a Super Bowl ad.
Lord,
So it's always interested to see what people think about it. Can you take us through kind of what your reaction was to the ads this year and any that come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked them this year. I'm a Broncos girl, and obviously we haven't been in the Super Bowl for a while.
No, you in the grand scheme of things, you were pretty recent. So congrats on that.
Yeah, but it was like 4 years or something like that.
Keep in mind, you're talking to a Browns fan, so.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good point. We can't all have a Peyton. So yeah, so this year I will say the game was somewhat interesting, and I'm glad Kansas City won. But yeah, I thought the ads this year were, I don't even remember any from last year, but I thought they made a real big effort. And I know that like everyone loved the Groundhog Day one, which was good. It was interesting how they focused on different generations, because probably some Gen Zs were like what? I don't get it. What's so funny about that? And the same thing with the Shining ad, right? I can't remember what it was for.
Yeah, it was
Mountain Dew.
Mountain
Right?
Dew. It was
Bryan
Mountain Dew.
Cranston.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the one that got me, and it's probably because personally a family member is going through Alzheimer's. So the Google ad, teared up. I was just like, I'm hiding from my husband, wiping the tears away, right? Because who's going to, I'm not going to cry at a Google ad. But, which was so simple. When you think about the money that, that Mountain Dew had to lay out for Brian and for the woman from Blackish, Tracy Ellis. Yeah. And then, oh my God. And then some of those ads were like with Jennifer Lopez and The Rock and like, Jason Momoa. Okay. That ad was freaking hilarious. Again, I can't remember what it was for.
Yeah, that one was right. Which is a problem, I guess, on their part. But yeah, that was the one that sticks out to me the most, just because funny. I think the ones that are more memorable are always so just kind of like, as I like to say, like, what the fuck ads?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, are just, like, you would just not like, oh, Jason Momoa, I mean, everybody knows who he is, or at least has seen him, whether you've seen Aquaman or not.
Especially all the women, whether you're 12 or 222, you know who Jason Momoa is.
Right. Yeah, he's a fan favorite for some reason. But but he's obviously like good looking guy, very muscular, and has the long flowing hair and all that. And the fact that they like kind of poked at that, and
Yeah.
literally he's like removing his muscles and like revealing his
His
hair is
hair.
not like, and he's just so skinny. And they nailed
Uh-huh.
it with that. But I think they knew what we saw with these is like they knew the consumer so well.
Yeah.
They across these different ads to your point, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of throwback to movies that came out of 2
Yeah.
or 3 or 4 decades ago,
Yeah.
but they really did. I mean, Super Bowl gets so much attention from so many different generations. I
It
think
does.
overall this year they did a pretty good job of having a few different kind of calls to a few different eras there, and making
Yeah.
the more of the classics with a modern twist. So
Yeah.
I agree.
Exactly. You know, and like Doritos, you had both. You had the Sam Elliott fans, and by the way, that the mustache, they should have ended with that. That was the only thing. They should have ended
Oh, that
with that, and
yeah,
Sam Elliott should have won. But then they had Lil Nas, right? So
right. Yeah. I almost just like did the worm when I saw his mustache do that. I was
I
like,
know,
that
it's
that was
so
awesome.
funny. It was so good. Yeah, but so all these stars, it was just action packed, star packed, and yet the one that really sticks out to me again is the Google one, which was just first of all, I remember it was Google, and secondly, it was just so simple. It was a screen and a voice, and it still like pulled at the heart. Brilliant, a brilliant ad.
Let's get to a section called the unusual. So
Okay.
pet peeves, quirks, and weird talents. So what is, and you can only say one again. This is like the constraints for all, but
All right.
what is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh my God, my computer, like just freaking spinning wheel of death. And I just, that's number one. And number two, I know you didn't ask for number two, is
Oh no.
spammers on LinkedIn. I mean, I got to say it, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, computer issues and software issues and UI issues. Oh my God. I am that person who just sits and pounds on the return key.
Yeah.
My husband, it drives him nuts.
Your return key is like busted. It's like
Exactly.
need a
It
replacement
no
key
longer
there.
says return. It just says,
Oh, well, it's fun while it lasted. How about quirks? So what is it? Maybe it's something your husband or family or friend, somebody calls you out for that's a little bit quirky about your personality, but it's who you are.
I sneeze really loud. Really
Really?
loud.
Oh,
Really loud.
I want you to like sneeze now. That sounds weird, but
Like
but
the whole room will turn around and look at me loud. Yeah.
wow, you might shut your mic off by doing it. So maybe not. But
Exactly.
yeah, that's a good. Yeah, sometimes it's needed. And then weird talents. I mean, I guess your last answer applies to this, but what's something that you're really, really good at, but it has like no impact on your business whatsoever? So it could be, think in the vein of sneezing or like a random trick you can do or like memory trick, something like that.
Well, I'm a hang glider pilot, which really doesn't affect my,
Are you really?
yeah, I have been.
Oh my God.
Well, I took a 20-year hiatus, but yeah, since I was 15.
What, how many hang glide? I don't know what the term is. How many hang glides have you been on?
Oh, thousands. So I was a competitor
Oh my
back in the
God.
day. Yeah. And a teacher and an instructor. So yeah,
That's
thousands
so
of
cool.
hours. But yeah,
I don't think I've
So
spoke to anybody who's ever done that. And so I think you kind of just like meet up for everybody. So that's all.
and I can sneeze really loud.
Right. And sometimes both at the same time.
Exactly.
All right. So let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A here. You ready
Okay.
for it?
Yeah.
All right. Sounds like you're ready for it.
Uh-huh.
Let's get wild. What is your favorite social media platform other than LinkedIn?
I guess I'm on Facebook more than Insta. So I'll go Facebook, even though it's a boring
All right.
answer. TikTok. No, I don't know what TikTok is.
You've gone viral every second. What is, other than this interview, the hardest you've ever laughed?
Oh my God. So we were actually hang gliding. My dad, by the way, 93-year-old, still hang glide. So that's where I
Oh
get
my
it
God.
from.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's so
I
cool.
know. So we were, oh my God, this was so funny. We were in South Carolina or in Tennessee at Lookout Mountain Flight Park, and we were all having dinner. And my husband had, I don't know why, but my husband had this snap up, kind of shirt, and he stuck his gut out and all the snaps opened. And that was funny. But the funniest part was my dad laughed so hard, his dentures fell on the ground. And I literally dropped to the ground and peed my pants.
Well deserved. Wow. Yeah, that's like something you see in shows and movies, but not
It
in real
really
life.
was. I have another one, but it's not PG rated. So we'll go with dentures.
I mean, we are explicit, but you can share it if you
Damn
want.
straight.
Or you can
When you have me back, I'll tell you the second one.
okay. All right. Well, that sounds good. There was one story I wanted to do a callback on, though. Earlier, you were doing kind of like your sales guy voice, sell you this, sell you that.
Oh,
And you
yeah.
said there was a story with that. You mind sharing that real quick?
Yeah. So we were prospecting a client, and what we do is we look at their profiles and say, especially the ones who go, oh yeah, we're socially savvy. We look at the profiles of their salespeople and go, are you really though? And so I'm not kidding. One of their salespeople had a skull and crossbones as his background image, and literally his headline said, "Quota crushing sales guy." And then he talked about being in the President's Club. And to me, if I was a buyer, I'd be like, gross. Like, I don't want to be sold to, right? There was nothing about that guy that came across as trust. And the picture was like, with
You weren't like,
sunglasses
oh, awesome. I've been looking for a quota crusher.
sales guy to sell me on something. I mean, no. And so, and there were 2 or 3 others that were like that. That was the worst one. And we got the deal because, as soon as we pointed that out, they're like, oh crap. So we got the job. But yes, quota crushing sales guy. I wish we'd done a screenshot. It was, I think he was leaning on his Ferrari too. No, he probably wasn't, but I'm making that
probably like 7 sports cars at once or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Viveka, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for sharing everything and all your tips from LinkedIn to hang gliding and sneezing. So thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. It's been such fun.
Yes, it has indeed. So where is the best place for people to connect with you?
Oh, sure. So the website, obviously, Vengreso, which is not a soup, Vengreso.com. I'm old, so you can email me, Viveka, Viveka at Vengreso.com. Gosh, up to like a week ago, if you Googled LinkedIn expert, my LinkedIn profile showed up first, so it was easy to find me, but that just recently changed. Darn you, Google. And yours is the ad I like the most.
Maybe
but
I'm like
you can still
Yahoo
find me on LinkedIn.
Right, of course. LinkedIn expert, which is amazing. You locked that down, by the way. Very cool. And then last thing here, stage is yours. Final thoughts. It could be a quote. It could be the best sneeze you could come up with, whatever you want. Send us off here. Oh my God.
I made that
All
one
right.
up.
That was, yeah, I'll probably need to lower the volume just to save everyone's ears, but that was incredible. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bless you. Sneeze Louise. I'll see myself out. Thank you, Viveka, for sharing your LinkedIn tips and crazy hang gliding stories. And thank you, wild listeners, for tuning in to another episode. If you want to hear more wild stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite app and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can also dive into our marketing and business growth resources at hippodirect.com/blog and hippodirect.com/newsletter. That newsletter is the Hippo Digest, and it's your place for wild marketing ideas every single week. And speaking of LinkedIn, make sure to say hey and connect with us on your favorite social media platforms at the handles Hippo Direct and Max Branstetter. Until next time, let your business run wild.
Bring on the bongos!